Viscount Leisure, my name's Charles. I'm going to take you on a very quick tutorial around this lifestyle, just so that we know the basics of how everything works, how everything operates and what everything does. Okay, first things first, when we get to site we want to make sure that we've got a nice level caravan front to back and side to side. Okay, in order to do that we use our jockey wheel situated on the front to raise or lower the nose of the caravan, and that will then give us a level playing field front to back. That's just this handle here. Okay, so that will wind and lower, and if we need to raise up one side of the caravan, then we use a levelling wedge, or you use two levelling wedges in this case, to raise one side of the caravan. Generally you'll be level side to side, but it's just something to consider, just to make sure that you're nice and comfortable inside and everything works much better when it is level. I'll have a quick walk around, just make sure we know what everything is. Fridge vents are just here. Okay, we have a motor mover on the front wheel of our caravan here, so that will help us move around. The handset and everything will be just inside the door when you pick up or get your caravan delivered. Okay, we've also got an external 240-volt power socket here. Now that is only usable when we are plugged into mains. All right, if we're wild camping and we are we're using gas and 12-volt, then that will not work. We've got a leisure battery situated in here, which is staying with the van because we have a solar panel on the roof, so that is being trickle charged in there at the minute. What we don't want to leave is two live cables which could potentially touch each other. All right. Our mains lead goes into here as well, so you'll need one of these. That plugs into the side of the caravan and then into your post at on site, and gives you 240-volt power into the van, which means we can use our domestic plug sockets. We can use our fridge and heating system on 240-volt as well. Okay. Little tip for this is, what we want to do is make sure we're not walking around with a live cable, so when you get to site, plug it into your caravan first, then into your post, and the other way round when you are finished. External gas barbecue point there as well, so we can plug a gas barbecue if we wish to, without having to remove a gas bottle from the gas locker. Talking of gas lockers, here they are. So I've got my gas in there at the moment. Okay, so that is running on propane. When we're travelling, we must make sure that our bottles are strapped in with the straps provided, and also the bottles are turned off by using the twiddle knob on the top. But obviously when we are on site, we want to open that up. That will then go through our pigtail here, going into our bulkhead regulator on the side of the caravan here, and that turns it into the working gas pressure for the van. This goes into the side of the bottle on an opposite thread. Also just a hand tight wheel, no need for a spanner, so nip that up nice and tight, but it's not lefty loosey righty tighty, it's the other way round. Okay, in here we've also got our external shower point. I'll show you where that goes. Our engaging tool for the mover. We also have our hitch cover here as well, and an Alco secure wheel lock situated in there as well. Just a quick note about our hitch head here. We're working on 13-pin electric, so you need to make sure your car is compatible with that. And we've also got an Alco stabilising hitch head as well, so you need to make sure your tow ball is Alco compliant, which means it's just the right spacing to incorporate the larger hitch head. Okay. Also, no grease on our tow ball. It's a big no-no. And also, if you've got a new tow ball, make sure that we are sanding the new paint off of it, so we're down to bare metal, so those friction pads in there have got something to grip onto. Right, coming around the other side, we have our boiler fluids are situated here, so our boiler will run on gas and electric. So leave this uncovered, don't block it up. You will get some, I've got it because I've got the heating and hot water on gas at the minute. I can feel the exhaust from that coming out from there, so you want to make sure that that's not covered. Our external shower point that we just saw in the front will plug into here, so we can have hot and cold water in the shower point outside. But this is how our aqua roll works. You take that to your filling up point on site, fill it up, wheel it back to your caravan, and then we drop the pump into the barrel, then into the side of the caravan. Make sure you're doing it that way, in the barrel first and then into the caravan, because this is a semi-rigid pipe, and if we try and force it around, we do end up cracking the casing, so we want to be very careful with that. So that's our fresh water going in. Once that's all plugged in there, we'll start turning our pumps on inside, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. We also need to collect our grey water coming out of our taps and showers, so that comes out of our 2 points here. As you can see, I've got some hose in there at the moment. You saw there's some grey hose in the front locker, so that is what you would use in that regard. Okay, the toilet. Two cupboards for the toilet here. The top one is our flush tank, so we use a separate flush tank just to hold our flush water, because we put chemical in there, either green chemical or pink chemical, depending on what you want to use. The the reason I say we don't want to be putting chemicals in our fresh water in our aqua roll, so that's why we have a separate tank. What that will do is help keep things lubricated and smelling a little bit more pleasant as well. In here we've got our, easier to do with 2 hands, right, our toilet cassette. Okay, when this is full there'll be a light inside your toilet, we'll have a look at that in a second, that will tell you when it is. Then we remove the cassette. Now I can't remove that from there, so there's a reason for that. That's because the sliding mechanism inside the toilet isn't all the way across, so we never try and force it out. There's always a reason. Okay, excuse me, here I've got everything up and down just so that we can have a look at it when we get inside, so ignore the mess for the minute. Right, okay, so here's our toilet. So what we're looking for is this handle here. As we can see, that isn't closed, right, so you want to make sure that's shut. So if you can't open your get your toilet cassette out, generally it's because that isn't shut properly. Right, this should now come out with ease. There we go. Right, as you can see, it's on wheels. We've got an extendable handle there as well, so we can wheel it off to our service point on site. Once there, we then extend the arm here and take the cap off the end. Okay, we then need to press this orange button here. What that does is release the air pressure inside the unit and makes it easier to empty the unit out. Then get a hose pipe, just give it a rinse out, empty it again, just make sure we're getting rid of all the horribleness in there. And then we need to reprime this with some chemical, either blue or green, into here. The instructions for how much will be on the bottle of whatever chemical it is you decide to use. This cap does also double up as a measuring cap as well. So then the cap goes back on, and then it just goes back into here, like so. When we're leaving the caravan for a period of time, or just in good practice really, drain down your flush tank using the little drain which is just up here. There it is. Okay, and also of course empty your toilet cassette as well. I'd also recommend getting some silicone spray and just spraying your the seals around your lockers every now and again to keep them soft and supple and doing what they need to. Number plate on the back there, you'll obviously need a number plate depicting the car that you're towing with, and you do have the fittings to add a bike rack on here as well. A full bike rack, but just bear in mind, putting extra weight on the back of your caravan, you do need to compensate for that at the front if you ever do get round to doing that. Locker underneath the bed here. As you can see, your spare wheel is situated underneath there, as are your carpets as well. Okay, so that's the basics from the outside. We've plugged all the water in, we've plugged our mains lead in. We now need to start plumbing everything up inside. So what we're going to do is come into our caravan and make sure all of our taps are switched off in here, in the bathroom and in the shower. The reason for that is, if you've left your van, you will have left that open. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. So then I'm going to come and find my drain valve, which is this yellow switch down in here that you can just see there. All right, when you get to the van, it will be open like that. What we want to do is flick it down, and that will then, when we start pumping water in, it will fill the boiler up and go to our taps rather than just dropping down to ground. Okay. Once we've done that, we come to our main panel, which is situated just here. On-off switch is the one in the corner. Okay. So we turn that panel on, and then we can start playing around with things. So the top button here is our awning lights. That will turn our awning light on just outside here. Okay. This one here does our uplighters. You can see just up here. Okay, and we can also dim those. You see it's on dim level 100, but we can go from 5 and we can go all the way up to 100. All right, so we can set some mood lighting. The next one here will do all the other lights in the van. Okay, and then the one underneath that will do our water pump. Okay, that's what we want to look at now. So we turn our water pump on. Okay, there is a menu you can go through as well, system settings, and it just tells you what your battery's doing and things like that as well. Okay, but the main thing is what we do is turn our power on, turn our lights on, turn on our water pump. Okay, then we want to start purging the system. Now if you can imagine, that boiler's just full of air. I mean, I've already done this, so we're just going to kind of go through the motions, if you will. But when you first get to the van, everything will be empty. We will fill that up with water, okay, and get water coming to our taps. So we're going to come to our tap. I'm going to turn it over to the hot side, okay, and turn the tap on. You can see I've got a nice steady flow of water. You won't actually get that. You'll get a load of noises, bubbling, gurgling, as it pushes all the air out of that boiler through the tap, okay. and it will cough and splutter and make all kinds of noise. It does take a bit of time. Then once you get a nice steady flow of water like that, we can turn it over to the cold side. Again, you'll get the same bit of coughing and spluttering, but it will be much quicker because we haven't got a boiler to fill up. Once you've got steady water on both sides, we're happy. We're going to go and do the same in our toilet, so to our tap in the toilet and also to our shower. Even if you're not using the shower, get all the air out of the system. It's just the system will work much better in that regard. Okay, so that's all of that. We're then going to come to our Truma panel here, which controls our heating and hot water. Okay, so you'll turn that on by pushing. You've got a little jog wheel in the middle here. Okay, so you'll hold that down. That will turn on the panel, and you will get this screen here. Okay, so what that's telling us at the moment is the heating is on, the hot water is on, we're using gas and electric at the same time, and also my fan is on as well. So to change it, I'll just press the button in the middle, and you can see I've got a flashing picture of a caravan or a motorhome with a thermometer in it. Press OK, and then just using the wheel I can turn the temperature all the way up to 30 degrees all the way down to 0. So it's a good system. You'll never be cold in here, but it is as simple as that. There's the thermometer there, so that's taking the air temperature, and it will just do what it needs to do for you. Okay, so my hot water is the next one along, so I'm going to go along. You see I've got a thermometer and some water. Press OK, and then I've got some options: off, eco, hot and boost. Off is obviously off, so it won't heat any water up. Eco will help heat the water, I think it's up to about 40 degrees. Hot will heat it up to 60 degrees, which tends to be where I have it. And then boost, if you're having a couple of back-to-back showers or you really want to heat that water up quickly, put it on boost. It will then prioritise the hot water over the heating for about 15 minutes, I think it is, and then it will automatically drop itself back to its last setting. Okay. Then we want to talk about power. Now we know we can run it on gas, we can run it on electric, and we can run it on a combination of the both. So this is where we select that. Okay, so we press OK. So if I just want to run it on gas, if I'm not plugged into mains, I can do that. That will then light my boiler on gas. In fact, I just let it click and light just then. If I'm using mains power, my main go-to would probably be electric 1 or electric 2. The reason for that is it's just 240 volt electric. Electric 2 is 2 kilowatts of electric. Electric 1 is 1 kilowatt. Depending on what power I've got access to will depend on which one of those I use. Now, if you keep tripping your van out, your trips are down here, and we'll look at those in a second. If you keep tripping your van, you know you're trying to pull too much current through. So you might drop it down to 1 if you're trying to run your kettle and your fridge and your hair straighteners and you know, your air fryer or whatever else you're using. You're trying to draw too much current, so you'll need to balance that out. But generally here is absolutely fine, and I can run it on 2 kilowatts of power. Next one along is my fan speed. So I can either have that on eco or I can have it on high. That's just because it's a blown air system. You can see we've got our vents here, okay, and all around the van. Obviously the higher the van's running, the slightly noisier it is. Not that it's particularly noisy, but you may want to at night time use the eco rather than the high, but you'll soon get your head around all of that. Now that's the basics of it. Okay, you can set some sort of timers and settings and all sorts of stuff. I tend not to use that, but there is an instruction manual in your book pack here. But the main thing we want to know is heating. Right, our temperature in the van, is our hot water on or off, what power are we using, and our fan speed. All right, you can see the little symbol there tells me that I'm also plugged into main, so I do have access to 240 volt power. All right, so that's kind of as simple as that in terms of the controls. All right, again, it'll take a little bit getting used to, I'm sure, but you know, it's pretty intuitive, to be honest with you. Okay. Going around the rest of the van very quickly then, so we've got a fire alarm and we've got a carbon monoxide alarm there. We've got cupboards everywhere as well. Individual reading lights, which are all individually switched just here. We have our windows. Okay, so these all open in the same way. Just having a look around. No, it's 2 slightly different ones. These are what we call click-clack windows on the side here. So we open them up, and then we push them up really slowly and listen for a click. All right. Once we hear the click, we just let the window drop back onto it. So there we go. 1, 2, 3. All right. Again, takes a bit getting used to, but really simple once you know how to do it. We can also lock the window on like a breather setting, so it's slightly open, a bit like we can at home. So if you're going out for the day and it's really hot, you want to keep some airflow, you can do. But if you're leaving the van for any kind of period of time, I would suggest not, and locking them properly. The other windows open very similarly in terms of the handles, but we've got these little lock nuts up the top here, so we open them to the desired openness, if that's the right word, and then we just tighten these up on either side, and that will then hold the window into position. Of course, we've got blinds and fly screens, okay, on all the windows. Anything that opens will have a fly screen. This one's just a blind, of course, because it doesn't open. Another thing up there. Lots of speakers in here, so we've got a good sound system in here. But what we will have a quick look at is our power supply unit, PSU. So as we know, we've got two different types of power. 12 volt coming from our Leisure battery. That's controlled by our blade fuses over here. So if you need to change a fuse, that's where you'll come to. And if you look just down here, this tells you what all the fuses do. A bit like there, it tells you what all of our trip switches do over there as well. So that's sort of the fuses. Our main system shutdown button is just here, so this will turn off the 12 volt system. So if you can't turn your panel or anything on, chances are you've probably turned this off here, okay? But if you're leaving the van for some kind of period of time, I would just turn that off. Save your battery. If we're plugged into mains and we've got 240 volt power, we're going to have a look at these here. So this is our trip switches, a bit like we have at home, okay? So what you want to be doing when you're plugged into mains, make sure that this button is down. That's your battery charger, because we want to be charging our battery, and this one is for our heating and hot water, okay? So if that's not on, then you won't be able to use your heating and hot water. And here are our trip switches, so if you trip anything out, this is where we come to reset them. This one here is our main RCD coming into the van, so a bit like at home. This is where the 240 volt hits the van first. If you're struggling to get things working, like your domestic plug sockets or your fridge on mains power, 9 times out of 10 it's a problem to where you're plugged into, not your van. So we can test that by pressing this yellow test button here. If I press that and this trips out, I know I've got power coming to this unit. But if I press that and it stays in the upwards position, that tells me I've got a problem externally to where I'm plugged into. My lead, maybe my the trip switch to where I'm plugged into has also tripped, because on sites you will have those as well. But that's where you want to be looking if you can't make that trip out. It's not your van, it's somewhere else. Right, so in all the other cupboards, you've got your stereo just in here. Okay, on-off button is the source button in the middle. Okay, that's just like an old normal car stereo, so that just plugs in like so. Okay, so we've got a aux in there, we've also got a USB in, and we've got a CD player, and of course we've got a radio as well. So to turn it off, you just hold the middle button down, and there she goes. Two 240 volt sockets here, TV aerial socket and a 12 volt socket, so we can put our TV on the side here and watch it from our nice L-shaped lounge. Dinette area here, which we use for whatever you want to use it for, really, but also makes into bunk beds as well, as I'm sure you probably already know, or a single bed, or whatever you want to do. Again, I'm not going to go into that with you now. Let's have a quick look at our kitchen area. Cooker, right, 3 burner hob. Right, runs on gas, so you can make sure you've got enough gas for one. B, that your gas is turned on, of course, because of course if we were travelling, we have kept it off. Igniter is down here, and then obviously the way we work is we turn them on and we hold them down, we press the igniter, and there we go, it lights up. So just like you would do at home. The only thing I would say about these as well, when we are travelling, if we're towing, make sure we keep these down. These are liable for do bounce around a lot in here, and otherwise they do smash on the floor. We've seen it many times. In fact, I'm going to leave that down. Grill and oven obviously work the same way. Hold down and light. There we go. Just bear in mind that this is a caravan oven, not a domestic oven, so it may take slightly longer to cook than things say. And we've got another little cupboard just underneath there. I think my gas isolation switches are in here. You can see these just down there. Once my camera catches up with me. Right, there we go. Just these ones here. So if you do need to isolate anything, this is where you come to. Draining board in here. And then we've also got a little shelf just there as well. Right, fridge. Domestic 3-way fridge will work on mains electric. It will work on gas when we don't have access to mains electric, and it will work on 12 volt from the car. Now that battery setting doesn't mean it will work off the Leisure battery. It's purely while we're travelling, and it comes off the 12 volt system of our vehicle. Turn the fridge on and off with the on and off button here. You can see I'm running on mains because it's illuminated with a little plug symbol there. My temperature is just here, so I can change that from here. It's best to keep it just off full. It does switch between fuel sources better when it's not all the way up. I don't quite know why, but just a tip was given to me by an engineer and seems to work very well. In order to switch to gas, press the flame. It will light itself, again making sure you've got enough gas, and of course you know, your gas bottle is of course turned on as well. And then when we're plugged into our car, we're quite simply press that one. Now you can see that's alarming, giving me a warning sign. That's because I've obviously not plugged into a car, so there's no power coming to it. So it's just letting me know that there's no power coming to the fridge. If I switch it over to that one, all fine. The buttons on the top there, which open our fridge, and then we've got our freezer section at the top, and then the rest of the fridge below. Tap, we already know about. Mixer tap, all right, hot and cold running water. I should have some nice hot water here now because I've had that running. Bear in mind, when it's at 60 degrees, that does get really hot real quick, okay? So that is hot water, and I can just about touch that. But of course, I can mix it with cold as well. In the cupboard here, you've got your charge controller just there. That's for your solar panel on the roof. Nothing you need to do about it, but as you can see, we've got green flashing lights, and that's always a good sign. Plug socket there, that's for our microwave. 240-volt microwave will only work when we're plugged into mains, okay? When you're traveling, make sure you remove your microwave plate, and you'll find that in your book pack just here, okay? The reason we do that is, again, a bit like the tops of these. They come out and they smash, they dent work tops, they do all sorts of things. So don't travel with it in there. Yeah, if I can give you one bit of advice. Another thing in there. We've also got our light switches, another TV socket here, another couple of 240-volt sockets, because we can have a TV situated on here, which this does drop down, as you can see. Okay, just with a little look at the top there. In terms of under the bed, spare wheel, bunk boards, and also our ladder and carpets are all situated underneath there. We've got our reading lights over there, we've got our mirror over here as well, and we've got more light switches, and our internal dining table is there, nice and easy to get to. Right, bathroom light switch is hidden just down underneath here, all right? And this is our toilet. So Thetford cassette toilet. The top of it does spin around depending on how long our legs are and where we want to sit, okay? Don't worry, it's all nice and clean, so we'll just go through it. Use the toilet in the normal way. When we finish, we flush it by pressing this button here, okay? That will then, from our flush tank that we talked about, fill this up with a coloured water, either green or pink, whichever you decide to put in there. And then we open the gate at the bottom using that lever that we already looked at underneath here. So we push that to one side, that opens the gate, everything drops down into the cassette, and then we pull this all the way over. That then locks and seals everything inside that unit. So we want to make sure that that's all the way over, because that's what's locking all the horribleness away. There's another vent down there for our heating, okay. Tap, okay, I'm going to teach you how to use a tap, and the shower as well, okay. Little light switch for the inside the shower here. Again, when we're traveling, we want to make sure that this is pulled back, all right, just to lock it into place by using that up there. And make sure your toilet door is shut and everything's secured away, really. That's sort of the best advice I can give on that. That's kind of how everything works, the basics of it. One thing we didn't look at is skylights, actually. These open really easily. Press the button, pull it down and back. Okay, so, right, we've been on holiday, we've had a nice time. We're going to now turn everything off and get ready for the road again. So, or if we're leaving it for a period of time. So I'm going to come in here. Firstly, I'm going to turn off my trimmer panel. You want to make sure you turn this off before you turn off your main panel. There we go. I'm then going to come and turn off my fridge, remembering that runs on a separate circuit to the main panel. So if you forget to turn that off, it will end up draining your battery down, so don't forget. And then we're going to start draining everything down. So I'm going to come in here and I will then open my drain valve just down there, and that will then drain my boiler down, okay? And then I would go and open all of my taps, all right, and leave them in between hot and cold. The reason for that is that will allow the air to travel around the system, and if we get any freezing weather and there's water in the system, water expands when it freezes, and we end up with damaged taps, damaged pipes, all sorts of things. So all taps left open, shower, bathroom, kitchen, and in between hot and cold, because that allows the air through both legs, and also our boiler drained down as well. Very, very important, okay? So that is all of that sort of stuff. Then what I would end up doing is coming and unplugging my van from the mains, unplugging it from my post first. Now my colleague's just given me a wave to say he's done that for me. So I'm now going to undo this. There we go. I'm going to turn off my gas bottle and make sure it's strapped in for my journey. I'm then going to come and get rid of my water pipe here, so just pull the little trigger on the bottom, give it a wiggle. Okay, be gentle with them because they can crack if you're a bit rough with them. And what we want to always be doing is protecting these seals here, because that's what makes our system work, so be very careful with that. A lot of people keep these in the sink so they don't get crushed by anything else. I'm going to leave it in there just so that we know where it is. Drain down my water system, Aqua Roll, Waste Master, get rid of all of that. Okay, drain everything down, stow everything away in the van. Then I'm going to put my steadies up and away I go. Okay. Right, that's kind of it for your tutorial really. We're on the end of the phone if you need us. I say everything is in the manual as well, but yeah, pick up the phone if you've got any questions, but enjoy your van.